Right, on the program this evening, who is culpable for the 2G scam? Where does the buck stop? What does this say for a government in drift? Hasn't the impression only been reinforced that nobody knows who's actually calling the shots in this government? And what hope does the government have of fending off the opposition when the allegations that are being made against Mr. Chidambaram are coming from within the government, and that too from the office of Pranab Mukherjee? Let's get started with our debate. Let me start with Subramanian Swamy. Mr. Swamy, you have been, of course, arguing in the Supreme Court that Mr. Chidambaram should be made and accused in the 2G scam case. The court will have the final word on that.
No, not in the Supreme Court, in the trial court.
In the trial court.
In the Supreme Court, I have asked for CBI inquiry.
That's right. You've asked for a CBI inquiry, and in the trial court, you're saying Mr. Chidambaram should be one of the accused. The court will have the final word on that. But what is the import and what is the upshot of this note for you?
Well, this note is basically a historical note. It appears to have been prepared for the Prime Minister to meet questions in Parliament, I think. I have cross-checked everything that has been said in it with the documents I already have and filed in the court, and I found that it is absolutely accurate. The main thrust is that Mr. Chidambaram had a responsibility which was given by a cabinet resolution of 2003, and it was reaffirmed in 2006, that the finance minister and the telecom minister will decide the price. And they did decide the price, and the Chidambaram comes out very clearly in the documents as having all along supported this low price of 2001. Now, there are other issues also which have not been yet come out, but which is in part of my documents. Mr. Chidambaram advised Mr. Raja that he could allow, before the 3-year lock-in period, to allow these two companies who didn't deserve the license in the first place, Swan and Unitech, to sell it to two foreign companies whom the Home Ministry advisory was that they are countries which have dubious implications for our national security. So all these facts support what Mr. Pranab Mukherjee's approved note to the Prime Minister.
Let me briefly give you Mr. Chidambaram's counter-argument to this, not today but on record from previously. Yes. He has made the argument in interviews to different channels saying, A, that he had asked for auction. Before this decision was taken, he had been in favor of auction. B, he cites a letter written to the Prime Minister on the 15th of January, I think, where he opposes the trade of spectrum and says if the trade were to happen, the government should get a premium. C, and that's my larger question to you, does the buck stop with Mr. Chidambaram? If he is culpable of looking the other way, does that not apply to almost everybody else in the government, including Mr. Mukherjee and the Prime Minister?
Well, first of all, Mr. Chidambaram has been manipulating the press for a long time to come out and say things which he actually doesn't do. In the case of auction, there is no occasion when he has said that the 2G spectrum should be auctioned. In fact, the 15th January note to the Prime Minister actually tells the Prime Minister, forget about the price that has been fixed. It is a closed chapter. It should not be raised. The 30th January minutes, which they said didn't exist, both Kapil Sibal and Pawan Bansal on the floor of Parliament misled Parliament to say that these minutes don't exist. That minutes I discovered and I filed quotes Mr. Chidambaram.
They say that's for another meting, which refers to a May meeting and not to the January meeting.
People who have not seen these minutes will talk anything. The 2G, it was on 2G spectrum pricing and recorded by the Finance Secretary, Mr. Subbarao, where Mr. Chidambaram is quoted as saying, we will not revisit the question of the 2001 price.
Okay.
And you must understand that the prices of this spectrum license is in 3 parts. An entry fee, a one-time spectrum charge, and a royalty. Now, the one-time spectrum charge, Mr. Chidambaram fixed with the Raja at 0. And the entry fee at 1650 crores. It's a royalty, some few percentage, 2-3% things that had been fixed. So here the TRI recommendation was that you can have the 2001 price for the entry fee, but spectrum should be the one-time spectrum allocation should be auctioned. That they did not do.
Who is culpable? Briefly, before I go to Harish and KTS.
Culpable,
who is culpable?
Criminally culpable are only two, Raja and Chidambaram, because they were empowered by the cabinet.
Morally, who's culpable?
Civil wrong, the Prime Minister, for knowing that what was done was wrong. He's an economist. He knew that you can't have at
So he should have intervened as well.
He should have intervened, okay. But it's a civil wrong. It's
all
a
right.
tort.
The Congress is silent this evening. We haven't heard a rebuttal from them. Mr. Tulsi, that doesn't surprise Subramanian Swamy. He's smiling there. You are somebody who has represented Sanjay Chandra of Unitech in this case. When you step back and look at the larger picture, this seems a government at war with itself. How do you believe this will impact the case itself?
Well, actually, the case is falling apart.
Mr. Swamy would argue that the case is getting reinforced and strengthened.
Not at all. Because, with great respect to Dr. Swamy, what he is saying is that there is a certain viewpoint which was being canvassed with the then Finance Minister, the present Home Minister.
Yeah.
But nobody is saying, not even Dr. Swamy, that this viewpoint was dishonest.
I am saying it's dishonest.
No, you may say, but dishonest means that there has to be a quid pro quo.
Yes.
There has to be an ulterior motive.
Yes.
Nobody is even alleging.
I am alleging.
Well, that's not in the domain of evidence right now. We have to have the courts decide that.
There is no
But why do you feel the case is falling apart? Explain that. Why do you feel the case is falling apart?
The case is falling apart because now the TRAI recommendation was precisely for this. This is a government where in every government there are contrary viewpoints being expressed freely. And by hindsight, if we say that a particular decision would have been better, that doesn't make it culpable.
So you're saying we can't argue on policy. We have to argue on whether Mr. Raja was actually clean and non-corrupt in the execution of that policy. Right. I'll come back to Subramanian Swamy to rebut that. Let me take this to Harish Salve, if I may. Mr. Salve, Mr. KTS Tulsi says the case is falling apart. Subramanian Swamy says he's been vindicated. What do you say?
Barkha, I wouldn't like to comment on either of those two because the case is in court and I don't think we should discuss ongoing cases. But what is important, and let's mark this very carefully, was there a wrong decision taken and has the nation suffered a loss because of giving the spectrum out at 2001 price? If you say no, then the whole thing is over. If you say that, well, a viewpoint is that the nation did suffer a loss and we are proceeding for the present on the footing that they did suffer a loss, I may not agree with it, but that seems to be the premise so far. If that is the premise, then there are two areas which are distinct. As far as moral responsibility is concerned, as far as constitutional responsibility is concerned, the cabinet is responsible. Secondly, it is also clear from the record which was placed before the Supreme Court in the hearing of the writ petitions and which is encapsulated in this note which Dr. Swamy has now produced, that in fact the Finance Ministry was consulted. They had raised objections. In fact, the Prime Minister's office had raised a point of view saying, why not auction the spectrum? Mr. Raja said, no, it is better not to auction. He said so in a letter to the Prime Minister in sharp words.
Yeah.
And after all this, the decision was taken not to auction. So for this decision, everybody is responsible. Now, as Mr. Tulsi rightly brought out, did he do so because he was bribed by somebody, or did he do so because he thought that was the right thing to do? That is the criminal case, and I don't think we should go there.
But
this document deals more with the first than the second.
You're saying that if there is culpability, it is that of the entire Union Cabinet, and you cannot isolate individuals. Is that what you're saying, Harish?
Constitutionally, absolutely.
All right, we'll put
Criminally, it's another matter, but constitutionally, yes.
All right. We'll put that to Subramanian Swamy in just a minute. Dushyant Dave, your perspective now. In a sense, the 2G scam is really haunting this government. It's following it everywhere. Many people would say that what you're seeing today is as much about politics as it is about the 2G. And what you're really seeing on display here is a government where there seems to be nobody in charge, where two of its senior-most ministers are going to war. You've had the chewing gum controversy earlier where Mr. Pranab Mukherjee accused Mr. Chidambaram's office of being responsible for actually bugging his office. Today you have Pranab Mukherjee approved note which is here in front of me, and that's what it says on the first page. This has been seen by the Finance Minister, sent to the Prime Minister. What's happening to the moral center of this government?
Well, Barkha, first and foremost, let me tell you something what I have believed for a long time. That truth has a very uncanny manner to surface. And that's precisely what has happened today. But the fact of the matter is, and I would agree with Harish quite, well, that undisputably it is well settled that when it comes to public largesse, the government cannot behave like a private individual can. Government is expected to, follow certain norms. And one of the accepted norms is that government must distribute its largesse through public auctions. Undisputably, that law has been laid down by Supreme Court for a long, long time. And the government cannot say that they are not bound by that law. Even if government has not framed a policy to that effect, binding themselves, I would say that in view of the Supreme Court's judgments, which have really settled this position, the government has no answer to the fact that they have really committed serious error in not following the public auction method in, giving away.
So who's responsible for that? Morally, Dushyant, where is the culpability? Where does the buck stop?
Look, let us understand, there is nothing moral about it. This is absolutely legal, that in law, there can be no doubt that there is an entire cabinet is responsible for this. The minister is responsible, the finance minister is responsible, and everybody who approved these licenses, including Prime Minister and his office, must take responsibility for it. And that's why I have always believed that I think it is high time that the government realizes what they have done, because today government has come out with figures, for example, Planning Commission, that 40 crore Indians live below poverty line.
Yeah.
You must therefore today go straight away, cancel these licenses, come what with the consequences maybe across the commercial world, and re-auction them. Proof of the pudding is in eating. If you re-auction, you will realize what the price we are going to fetch. I mean, you are talking about hundreds of thousands of crores.
What we're hearing from both Harish Salve and Dushyant Dave, yeah, I'll come back to you. Let me take that to Subramanian Swamy, is that this is the moral responsibility of the Union Cabinet. This is the responsibility of the topmost leaders of the government. Now, let me just read out to you. You don't need to hear this, but for the benefit of our viewers, there is also correspondence between A. Raja and the Prime Minister, where the Prime Minister is actually raising concerns. And Raja is writing back saying that he was further enlightened by External Affairs Minister Pranab Mukherjee and Solicitor General G. Vanvati to go ahead with his proactive plans. This correspondence is well known. It basically creates an impression that Mr. Raja is steamrolling ahead with the policy and the entire government is looking the other way.
Well, see, first of all, you have to divide many of these issues
from each other, separate them.
Yes. As far as the pricing question is concerned, it was well established from 2003 that the sole responsibility were with the finance minister and the telecom minister, and they did not have to report to the cabinet. The cabinet had delegated that.
Yeah.
Now, at most you can say a civil wrong has been committed, that the Prime Minister had residuary powers, he didn't exercise that. Now, on the question of price, there's no doubt there's no third person. There are only two people, Chidambaram and
as Finance Minister and Telecom Minister.
And that's right. Now, CAG had noted that and said if Mr. Chidambaram didn't agree with Raja, he could have invoked transaction of business rules for cabinet, which Rule 7 says that if a minister disagrees with another minister, it has to go to the cabinet. There was no disagreement, obviously, otherwise it would have gone to the cabinet.
So you're saying that there is a legal culpability, which is that of the telecom minister, the finance minister, and the moral culpability, which is that of the Prime Minister as well?
No, I would say there's a criminal culpability, that is of Mr. Chidambaram and Mr. Raja, and there is a civil culpability, which is malfeasance in government activity, which could be traced to a number of ministers, including the Prime Minister.
I'm going to start taking quick last comments. Mr. Tulsi, briefly.
There is no inexorable rule that the public largesse has always to be by way of auction. Here is a social objective where the government, as a matter of policy, decides that telephony must be available to the poorest in this country at an affordable price.
So you believe the policy per se cannot be branded? You don't agree with Dushyant that the policy per se is where the corruption starts?
This is a good policy. And in India, this is the biggest revolution that we have seen in the post-independence India. This is quibbling over policies. After all, this is a very valid concern which many people in the government had. And if they adopted this policy, it was consciously done.
So you don't think this letter changes anything? It doesn't change the fundamentals of the case? All right, Subramanian Swamy and Katie are still in complete disagreement there. Harish Salve, what does it tell us about the government? What does it tell us about the state of this government?
See, Barka, it has been very clear to all of us who appeared in the Supreme Court when the file of the government was produced that this was first of all a policy decision. I don't agree that that there was any mandatory requirement to auction it. The real problem was something else. Between 2002 and 2007, large volumes of spectrum had been given free of charge to the existing operators. The TRAI in 2007 said, if you auction the spectrum, you will completely defeat the objective of giving new licenses. So there were two views on whether this should be charged for upfront or whether you should mop up by profit sharing.
Okay.
So there is no such mandatory breach. But if you hold the principle that a loss was caused, then obviously everybody was responsible, and the document showed that writ large. This note is actually an aide memoire which wraps up everything which is there in the government record in any case. And this has to be known clearly.
Okay.
On criminal culpability, none of these show that Mr. Chidambaram was part of any conspiracy. I have not seen any such document.
All right, difference of opinion there between Harish and Subramanian Swamy. Dushyant, quick last word. We've got to wrap it up here. Do you think another overwhelming impression that people of this country will walk away with tonight is that how does the government convince the people when it can't even convince Pranab Mukherjee today?
Look, I personally feel, I mean, with great respect to Harish and Mr. Tulsi both, I am not prepared to accept this argument that, largest, as valuable as spectrum is, the government can, just fritter it away in the manner it likes. Try or no try, because we know how try functions. I mean, these operators can manage anything and everything. If they could manage the entire cabinet, what is try? Fact of the matter is that these properties, if you allow on principle to be given away on first come first basis or on pick and choose basis as they have done, then I think this democracy is in serious peril.
Okay.
Every action of the government in 2G is wholly arbitrary, it is capricious, and it is fraught with serious dangers for future of this country.
Okay.
I have no doubt therefore that what government has done is absolutely wrong. I personally feel, and I believe very strongly, that government owes really a great responsibility to undo this, and they must do it as fast as they can so that we can recover this loss. It's all right for everybody to say that there is no loss.
All right.
Sell the licenses today and you will get the money.
So
and
sell the licenses.
I
Will
mean,
your
I
case
don't know
end with
what
that,
is-
Subramanian Swamy? Really last word, I'm out of time.
Certainly the selling of the licenses by auction, I am in support of that. But the fact of the matter is that these people who got the license did sell it. They sold it at 8 times the price. In the case of Tata, sold it to Docomo at 13 times the price. They are the beneficiaries. They should have come to the government revenue.
Harish, you wanted to come in there as...
Yeah.
Yeah. Go, quick, quick.
You represent Tata.
Yes.
Docomo for existing operations.
Sorry, Harish, go ahead. We didn't get that.
Tata's had 30 million customers. They had a full existing operation.
You are representing Tata's, I know that. So
yes,
you're
I
going to
am.
defend them. Yeah, I know it.
No,
That
but the
doesn't mean
poorest
I know
will
it.
be left out of the
I know
scheme.
it. You're bound to defend them.
The poorest of the people will be left out of the
All right,
scheme.
there are larger questions here. Harish, I'm going to give you one sentence there. What is the larger question raised tonight?
See, the larger question raised tonight is when issues like this arise, we should not target individuals. First, let's focus on the working of the government. There are 2 points of view. Dushyant has a point of view saying this should not have been given free. Tulsi and I agree that there was nothing wrong done in giving these licenses in the manner in which there was.
Okay.
And when you are discussing that, the government is answerable.
All right, I think we all agree
Instead
at
of
least on that.
targeting individual ministers.
But Subramanian Swamy, to end here tonight, are you now, how do you see this case unfolding? What's the next step in court?
I want the CBI investigation to be ordered so that Mr. Chidambaram is interrogated and we get to know.
And when do we know what happens in court? Is this a long drawn out?
In the next 2 days you will know.
So,
and then I go to the trial court, and that's where the criminal culpability
But
question
as
will
of
come.
now, there is not even a reason to suspect any wrongdoing.
all right, the jury is out on that one. The court will have the final word. Subramanian Swamy, KTS Tulsi, Harish Salve, Dushyant Dave. I think what we do all agree on is that there is a larger culpability here and serious questions tonight about where the center, the moral center and the center of authority is in this government, which really seems to be in a state of near crisis level drift. We'll end it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much.